You have heard of the Chronicles of Narnia, but there is no white witch here, and there are only sons of Adam and daughters of Eve. You have read or likely skimmed 1st and 2nd Chronicles, but there is more than just genealogies and history here. These are the Stanley Chronicles. They are the adventures of Chris and Daisy Stanley, which includes their 4-year-old son CJ and their dog Toby. Chris and Daisy are a Match.com success story that covers 3 continents, 2 diverse cultures, and 1 amazing marriage. If you join the journey, you'll quickly discover that their relationship is designed by God and implemented by 2 imperfect people that try to have fun as they serve God and build both their relationship and their family. Their stories are usually wild, often silly, sometimes outlandish, periodically extreme. They contain some tragedy, but are always entertaining. Here are their chronicles. Hi, and welcome back to the Stanley Chronicles. I'm Chris.
I'm Daisy.
And we're going through sharing our testimony and our story of all the various things that we've been through as a couple.
Yes.
We started out talking about where it all began and how we met, our online dating experience. We're going to ultimately get into one of us having a cardiac arrest and a stroke. We'll also talk about us going through IVF, in vitro fertilization, and just a whole myriad of other topics that we think are going to be of interest to some of you at least. But in this episode, we're going to pick up chronologically. We had talked about, as I said, last episode, we went through our online dating experience. We actually met on Match.com. We exchanged emails for about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then we exchanged phone numbers and talked on the phone for 2 weeks.
Yes.
So we've got about a month's kind of foundation of just starting to get to know each other. And then I asked Daisy if she was comfortable enough for us to go out on a first date. And I proposed that we go to the Cheesecake Factory, which was tied to a very large mall in our area, actually a little bit closer to Daisy.
Yeah, to my place.
And she agreed. And so we had it all planned out. And the day of our date actually happened to be the same day that Hurricane Sandy.
Yeah, it was actually the day before that Sandy happened, but we decided to just keep the date because we have been talking for a while, and we didn't want to prolong the meet. So.
Right. So the storm was coming through, and I had been texting her throughout the day just to make sure that she was still comfortable meeting, just because of the weather situation. Things were building up and getting worse in our area. And she said that she was willing to still meet. So I had driven down. I had gotten there a little bit on the early side, put our names in at the restaurant, and then I was sitting there waiting.
Yeah, and then I came and I was on time. So I remember when I first saw him, we said hi and everything. He looks exactly like the pictures. He was not different. He was exactly the same person that I've seen pictures on the website, and the voice was the same. So I was a little bit reassured that I was not scammed, and he was the right guy.
Yeah, and I mean, it was similar for me. I mean, Daisy looked just like her pictures. In fact, she looked even better. I mean, she's absolutely gorgeous. And so it was very exciting to see her come through the door. And so as soon as I saw her, recognized her, I, jumped up to say hi. And we had gotten there. And because of the hurricane, we actually expected that everything would be completely empty. But it was kind of strange to us. The restaurant was absolutely packed. And so we kind of didn't shake hands or hug or anything.
No,
we kind of just did a, hey,
hi.
how are you?
Blank there, hi.
Yeah, I think there was that moment of awkwardness of how do you actually say hi. But she arrived, and the waitress was actually calling our table just as she got there. So she kind of just went and followed the waitress back to our table. and we sat down and kind of just exchanged a little bit of small talk. You know, did you get here safely?
How was the day? How did you make out with the storm and everything? Is everybody okay? And you tell the family, and just small talk.
Right. And then we placed our order. And then as we're ordering, I'm sitting here thinking, this is going really well. And, we're only 5 minutes into the date, but just really enjoying the fact that we had spent, this last month trying to get to know each other as much as we could through email and phone conversation. Now's the opportunity to actually see each other in person. And, I definitely was pleased with everything that I visually was seeing, and then just her backing up that she was everything she represented up to that point. And then you kind of just out of nowhere, just right up front, hit me up with the big question.
Yes, I did. Because remember, as I said before, I was in my, mid-30s, and I didn't want to play games, and I pray and I asked the Lord. I had my list, and I knew what I wanted on my list, so I presented it to the Lord, and I prayed over it. So I didn't want to waste my time, and I didn't want the guy that I would meet to waste my time either. So then I asked him, what did I ask you? Do you remember?
You essentially said, you went into a little bit of an explanation that I'm here to date and I'm looking for a serious relationship.
I remember.
My objective is to find my future spouse. And then you said something to the effect of, I really just want something
serious.
That's potentially going to become serious.
To lead to marriage. And if you're not here for the same reason, then it was nice to meet you, and let's just end the date here.
Yeah, and so it just all of a sudden got really tense, and it really kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. And I wasn't scared of the question from the standpoint that I was confident in my answer, but it just was so bold and blunt, and essentially the first thing that we talked about on our first date. And at the same time, I did want the same things, but I was a little bit concerned that as a guy on the date, if I come out saying I'm looking for marriage, I'm looking for something really serious, I'm a little bit worried that she might be taken back, even though she's saying that's what she wants. Is that going to be too much? Is it going to be over the top for her? And so I kind of just took a deep breath, and I said, you know what? I'm here looking for a spouse too. I'm also in my mid-30s. I had been through a lot of dating games, and I didn't want that anymore. And I was in it to find the woman that God had for me. And so I said, I don't know necessarily that you're the one that God has for me, but I'm here to find out. And so I'm looking for a long-term relationship where we can really figure that out together. And the one thing that I do want to get across is the fact that when she asked me, the sense that I had was that you grabbed your car keys. And she didn't physically grab her car keys, but I had the sense that she was about to grab her car keys and grab her purse and was ready to just take off.
Because I was determined, I didn't, I've been, it was either that or nothing. So I pray, and my conviction was, God, if it's the guys that you have for me, then he wouldn't be afraid of the question, and he would come clean, and that's a sign that I would know that he's the guy. So
right. And so as I said, I was looking for the same things that she was, and there was a little bit of concern or reservation, at least in my mind, that with Daisy being this bold and this upfront this early in our first date, like, is she going to be trying to drive the whole relationship? which we'll kind of get into a little bit later, but that was a little reservation. But outside of that, I was like, wow, she's able to speak her mind, and that I actually found attractive, that she wasn't hiding, and it was very clear to me that she was being true to herself. And that was just really appealing, because I wanted somebody that was real, somebody that was genuine, and that was a real sign that that's exactly what she was doing. And so I gave my answer. How did you feel after that?
Yeah, as soon as you gave me your answer, I was reassured, and I was like, okay, I can put my keys down in my purse and we can eat.
Right. And so by that time, dinner had certainly come out. And the moment we got past that question, everything just felt really natural. And I don't remember exactly the things that we talked about.
Probably family and jobs and, interest in life and, just the small talk that you do with a person when you first meet them.
Yeah, but I remember it got deeper than just that, because we did spend, the small talk stuff over the phone. And what I remember is the fact that even though we grew up literally worlds apart,
Yes.
I mean, you grew up in the Congo, I grew up here in the States, in the Northeast, and despite that, and despite all the differences, you would expect our families to be opposite.
Yeah.
You would expect,
But it was not. It was not the case.
Yeah, it's despite all those things that would be opposite, we actually had so much in
Yes.
common. Our family backgrounds were very similar, just took place on different sides of the earth.
Yeah.
And then even our church
beliefs,
background,
yes.
and our beliefs in God.
And that was a big item on my list, that we would share the same faith and same beliefs. So.
Well, that was on both of our lists.
Yeah.
But we just talked through the fact that despite everything being so potentially opposite, there was so much that we had in common. And it was just pretty wild to experience that.
Yeah.
So then, the conversation was just really natural. We just had a really good time talking. And I remember kind of getting to the end of dinner. And you go to the Cheesecake Factory, I mean, to me, everybody gets dessert. That's the meal's just the appetizer.
Not me.
So I asked her if she wanted something for dessert, and she
I said
declined.
no, because gotta watch my figures.
So neither of us wanted the date to end. We were just having a great time. So I suggested, I knew the one bookstore in the mall had a really nice, comfortable coffee lounge. So I suggested, hey, let's go for coffee. And
Yeah.
you jumped right on board for that. And of course, we go in the mall, and the stores are all closed. The bookstore is shut down.
closed, yeah.
Mall's completely empty, and we just couldn't believe it because of the hurricane about to come through. And so I'm kind of a little bit panicking, because I don't know the area very well. All I know is the mall, and if everything in the mall is closed, I'm like, I don't know where else to go. But neither of us wants this date to end, and I feel a little responsibility as the guy, like I should have a plan. But you,
And then I remembered that there was a store at the mall that was open, and they do have a coffee shop. So I suggested, let's go there.
yeah, it was a Starbucks
Yeah.
inside of a Target, and I'm sitting here thinking that atmosphere is nowhere near as nice as the other coffee store, because it's inside the Target. But I'm all about I'm all about not ending this date. So I was like, all right, let's do it. And so we went over to Starbucks, and fortunately, we ordered our coffee, and fortunately the back table in the corner was open, so we felt like we had a little bit of privacy and could just sit down and really talk openly and continue to get to know each other. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, this is amazing. Like, this is the best first date I've ever had. I'm sitting here with a very beautiful woman that's out of my league, and just enjoying her company and the friendship that was clearly starting. And after dinner and after her asking me about, am I here for the right reasons and am I looking for something serious, I'm sitting on top of life
thinking that everything was clear and
yeah, I got past all the hard stuff, and then you decided it was time for another big question.
Yes. And I asked him, what is the gender role in marriage? What do you think that the gender roles are in marriage?
Yeah, I'm sitting here about to take, a drink of coffee, and she says, what's your view on traditional gender roles in marriage? And again, it just took me by surprise that, this early in the relationship, asking a question like that, not that there's something wrong with it, but just, wow, I wasn't expecting it. And it's pretty sudden. And I thought I was free and clear, but I'm like, oh crap, because my feelings on traditional gender roles in marriage are very, very strong. And I base all my beliefs off of my understanding of Scripture. And I'm sitting here thinking that there's no way I can give a halfway answer. Mm-hmm. I have to be clear about my thoughts, and I have to put it all out there. But at the same time, I'm thinking, if she doesn't agree, that's it.
Yeah,
like
she's out.
I really felt like she was, just like the first question, I felt like she was grabbing her keys in her purse, and if this guy doesn't answer right, I'm gone and never going to see her again.
Yes.
And so again, I kind of just took a deep breath, and I told her flat out, I said, well, I believe very strongly, and it's based on my understanding of Scripture. And I said that, what I believe is that the man is called to be the head of the household and the woman is called to be his helpmate. Mm-hmm. And I said that in no way is anything like the caveman mentality of the man tells you what to do and the woman just submits and has to do what the man says, or he's going to hit her with a hammer. I said that's not at all what I believe. I believe it's an equal partnership, and it takes both parties working together. And I said the way submission comes in and the way the man being the head comes in is when they're trying to make a decision, and they've argued through it, they've talked through it, they've tried to figure absolutely everything out, and then the last possible thing, if they're head to head, is at some point a decision has to be made, and then that's when the wife would submit to the husband and yield to his decision. And the example that I gave was, well, if the couple decides that they need a new car, and maybe the husband in this situation says we need a brand new car, and the wife in this situation says no, budget-wise we need to do a used car. Mm-hmm. And so I said, they talk it through, they visit dealerships and they do their research, and they keep presenting to each other like, let's do it this way. And if they just end up, no, the husband keeps saying we need a new car, the wife keeps saying no, it has to be a used car. When they've argued through it and talked through it, and at the very end, once that decision has to be made, then the expectation will be the woman would yield to the husband. Not because she's weaker or has a lesser opinion, but that's what I believe Scripture teaches in that scenario. And I just remember thinking, I ran out of things to say. Like, I've explained it as clearly as I know how.
Yes.
And this
you did a good job.
This woman is either going to be good with my answer and appreciate it, or she's grabbing her keys in her purse, and that's the end.
Well, obviously, I didn't run away and I didn't grab my keys. And yes, I really appreciate his answer. And I liked it because that's the way that I grew up, just watching my parents and their marriage. And I was also looking for that. And when I get married, so his answer really matched with my views. So I was really, really happy of the answers that he gave.
And what's kind of ironic to me is that she sat there. I mean, she was very respectful, listening and made eye contact, but she didn't give any inclination as to, I like your answer, or I hate your answer. She just completely waited till I was done, and I'm just holding my breath at the end. Just, okay, now it's your turn to respond. And she said that she absolutely agreed.
Yes.
Again, just what she said, that's what she was looking for in a marriage. And so again, I just kind of like sighed a big sense of relief. But then I'm like, what question is coming next? What else am I not exactly prepared to answer on a first date?
Yeah.
But we talked for a while longer, and we actually ended up closing down.
Yes, we did.
The Starbucks. They were wiping the tables around us and politely saying, "You need to leave now."
To leave. Yeah, the light was already dimmed, almost inside of the store. So
yeah, so we finally made our exit, and we kind of realized it was pretty late at that point.
Yeah.
And so it was time to say goodbye. And I remember I walked Daisy to her car, and I just kept thinking, all right, what's the best way to end the date? Do you go in for the hug? Do you go in for the kiss?
No.
and I actually did go in for a hug, and you kind of took a step back.
Yes, I did.
And I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe it didn't go as well as I thought it did. Did she lie about liking my answers or something like that? But then you kind of surprised me again with what you said.
Yes, so I asked him, so what are we doing next?
Yeah, not even quite to her car. She's like, what are we doing next? What's next? And that also really just took me by surprise, because I didn't have a plan for a second date, because I was waiting to find out, did you even want a second date? So I kind of just made up something about what we might be able to do. And my thought process was, we'll just talk during the week and
I mean, I had made up my mind after the second question that I asked him. Because if he didn't answer the way that I was expecting him to answer, then I probably wouldn't have asked what's next.
Right.
So it would have been just, bye, let's talk during the weekend. I probably would have called him back or answer his text, or I would have just disappeared.
So when she said what's next, I was just elated. I was overjoyed. Like, this absolutely, even though I got scared by two big questions, this is absolutely the best first date I've ever had. And I was just really excited the opportunity to get to see her again and get to know her better. And I knew right then, by the end of the date, that this relationship was going to last at least a little while for us to really get to know each other.
Yeah, me too. I knew that, again, because of the two questions that I asked him and the way he reacted and the answer that he gave me, I knew that there might be something that, worth to explore.
Right. So we said goodnight. There was no hug or anything.
No hug.
I was a little disappointed, to be honest with you. But the fact that I knew there was a second date, I knew that there would be the opportunity later, hopefully. And so we just said goodbye. I told her to make sure that she called me when she got home, so that I knew she got home safely. And that was the end of the first date.
That was the end of the first date.
And you called me later, and I don't think we really talked too long.
No, we didn't.
We reiterated the fact that we had a really good
nice
time.
Yeah.
Looking forward to getting together on the next date. But it was late. I had a 45-minute drive home after that. And so we just parted ways. And through the week, we ended up connecting. And obviously, we dated for a while after that.
Yeah.
And so that's going to come up in future episodes. We'll talk more about our dating. But in our next episode, we actually want to hit fast forward, because we know there's a lot of really serious topics that we want to be able to share our story to hopefully offer kind of comfort to other people, as well as just the opportunity to relate to somebody else that's been through a similar experience. So we're going to hit the fast forward button. We're going to go blow right past the weddings, and we're going to get into IVF, which is in vitro fertilization. We did have, spoiler alert, but we had problems getting pregnant.
Yeah.
And so we went the IVF route. And so our next episode, we're going to talk about that. So we hope you'll stay tuned. And again, if this story can help you or other people that you know, please forward the videos onto them. And, make sure that you like, share, subscribe.
If you have a question, don't forget to drop your questions on the comment part of the video, and we'll make sure that to answer those.
Absolutely. So again, thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you in our future videos. Have a great night.
Good night.